Indonesia and the CNMI. Cars Plus, home of Guam's first and only lifetime powertrain warranty. Visit carsplusguam.com for details. McDonald's of Guam, I'm loving it, and King's Restaurant, serving your local breakfast, lunch, and dinner favorites for over 45 years.
Ahead on Primetime, Georgia Rep. Marjorie Taylor Greene responds to Congressman Mike Nicholas's cookie gesture. Plus, Nestor Lecanto reports on how all inbound travel to the Philippines will be banned temporarily due to a surge in COVID cases. And the Guam Department of Education announces that registration for the upcoming school year has started.
Hafa and good evening. I'm Adriana Cotero. Georgia Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene has yet to acknowledge her mischaracterization of Guam as a foreign country undeserving of federal aid. Instead, she's clapping back at Guam Delegate Michael San Nicolas for visiting her office unannounced with National Guard troops. Nestor Lecanto has more.
Congressman San Nicolas released a video of him dropping off Chamorro chip cookies to Representative Greene's office. He was accompanied by Guam National Guard troops who he was taking on a tour of congressional offices. San Nicolas called the cookie delivery a goodwill gesture and an opportunity to reach out to Greene and introduce her to Guam. Greene has come under fire after a recent speech went viral on social media. She mentioned Guam as one of several foreign countries that shouldn't be getting American taxpayer money. Greene was not at her office, and San Nicolas says she has yet to reach out to him. But she has reached out to the Defense Secretary and Chief of the National Guard, complaining about what she says was the misuse of troops to, quote, ambush her office unannounced. San Nicolas appeared on CNN to defend himself.
That criticism is unfounded. We were not at all using military service members for political props. I was taking my guardsmen on a tour of the Capitol, and we stopped by several members' offices and we delivered some goodies. Cookies should never be considered a political prop, and neither should our military.
This does put them in a tough spot. I hear you're saying it doesn't, but it does.
Actually, my Adjutant General back on Guam is even expressing very supportive language of the actions we've taken. Guam is a very goodwill community. We're going around delivering goodies and going around to say hello, and I think that that's a very appropriate thing to do, especially when certain members of Congress may not be very familiar with Guam, and we're going to continue with that outreach. That's a very positive thing to do.
Meanwhile, Guam National Guard spokesman Mark Scott says the troops were not in violation of any laws prohibiting partisan political activity.
There was no one saying that Democrats are better than anyone else or Republicans are better. There's no one holding campaign signs, wearing shirts, advocating for a candidate by definition. So our troops did nothing wrong. They were on a tour of the Capitol as invited by our congressman. It was a cultural token of goodwill, bringing cookies and an informal introduction. There was no assault. There was no storming of the Capitol. And there was no violation of the regulation. Being that there's nothing illegal, immoral, unethical, or unsafe about what they did, there's no regret, and there should not be any folding to any public court of opinion, especially if it comes from a fringe. And it doesn't matter which fringe.
Ironically, those National Guard troops, Americans from Guam, have just returned home after being detailed to Washington to protect the Capitol. For Guam's News Network, I'm Nestor Lecanto.
The Vatican's top doctrinal office, the Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith, wrote in a letter response, quote, "The blessing of homosexual unions cannot be considered licit," unquote, referring to same-sex unions as sinful. And KUAM asked both the local clergy and LGBTQ community for their thoughts on the controversial spewing release. The recent question or dubium sent into the Congregation of the Doctrine of Faith, or CDF.
Does the church have the power to give the blessing to unions of persons of same sex?
And the Vatican's response?
And this letter basically says, no, it cannot, as the teachings of the church, as the catechism of the church has stated, that the sin can never be accepted and condoned. But we do want to acknowledge that the sinner is who we are caring for, who we want to work with.
The Vatican sent out the letter approved by Pope Francis this week, confirming that the Catholic faith does not have the power to bless same-sex unions. Member of the local Catholic clergy, Father Mike Chrysostomo, says the ruling is nothing new, and the church's teaching is that, quote, "we cannot bless the sin, but we can bless the sinner," unquote.
This is something that I thought about this morning just real quickly, is that I remember growing up and it was tough love when things were told to me that I couldn't have certain things or I couldn't do certain things. My parent kind of guided me in through this. I think we want to be able to understand that the church tries to guide its members and its children, God's children, in the ways that God had intended, and in the best way that it can interpret that through scripture and through the teachings of the church. And it is only through the lens of love. And if we don't have love for these persons with same sex, then we'll never get anywhere.
The LGBTQ community agrees everything should be through the lens of love. Equality Guam spokesperson and board member, Lacia Casil.
They need to turn that lens on themselves. There's been a lot of scandal in the church here on Guam in the past few years. Look at Apron. The people from our community are not hurting anyone. We're loving individuals. We have families. We support our community. And all we're asking for is equality. We're not asking for more rights. We're not asking for special rights. We're asking for the same rights as everyone else. Mm-hmm. And I think the church needs to just take a step back and look at themselves, and then before making accusations about who's a sinner.
Father Crisostomo admits the island's faithful has not always been successful in communicating their messages. And again, the LGBTQ community agrees.
I know that there's lots of LGBTQ people that support the church. You look at the choirs, look at the people that create the floral arrangements. And I know that they take their marching orders from the Vatican. So, I don't believe that they have made any advances. No.
Casil says it was not shocking news from the Vatican, knowing that the Roman Catholic Church would never endorse same-sex marriage.
The focus of Equality Guam is, we're not here to attack the church or to try and get them to change their policies. Our focus will be on the youth and making sure that they feel loved and they feel supported and protected.
Polly says it's difficult to reach out to those with different views from the church's strict views that are deep-rooted in Scripture. But he wants to bridge this gap through the teaching of love.
And just one last thing, a message of those who are in the community, the LGBT community. We love you, God loves you, and I know many of them have their own deep faith in God, and God bless you for that. God bless you in your endeavor to bring God into your life. And I hope that you never, ever leave God.
It was strictly business for acting chair of the Legislative Committee on Public Safety, Senator Frank Blas Jr., who called this afternoon's oversight hearing with the Guam Police Department. The purpose for bringing our men in blue forward was to address the department on the repeated allegations of public corruption and misconduct that were aired out in federal court. Senator Blas began with setting ground rules and asked for a rundown of GPD's process when complaints are made against an officer rather than question the specific allegations. But Police Chief Steve Ignacio beat the lawmakers to the punch on a slew of matters currently under investigation.
Let me just address the online gambling, since it's one of the stories that's been in the news lately. So, and before I make this statement here publicly, I did confer with the Secret Service that I can mention them in today's hearing. So, I received information from the Secret Service, another law enforcement partner here on the island, that they were actively investigating a member of the Guam Police Department, and they named the member of the Guam Police Department to me. So they identified that they were doing a criminal investigation. So what I did is I opened up the internal affairs investigation. Now, that investigation is ongoing, just like all other internal affairs investigation. So I'm not going to name the employee, but I do have a name of the employee. The other thing that came out was that other officers within the Guam Police Department were part of this investigation, but they were not named to me. So I don't have a name to go on. I can't open an internal affairs investigation into unknown persons within the Guam Police Department because I don't have a specific name to go on. And let me take it a step further, because back in March 3rd of 2020, there was a joint letter issued by myself and the Attorney General of Guam, Mr. Levin Camacho. And in that, we indicated that we were doing a joint investigation. Now, a lot of that goes back to allegations that came out during the Mark Mayo trial and the former Mayor Jesse Blas trial. So we decided that we're going to do a joint investigation into any criminal acts that may have been committed by law enforcement personnel or public safety personnel that have come about during that investigation. Now, taking that a step further, I had a conversation with the acting chief investigator, Anthony V. Camacho from the Attorney General's office, and we have expanded our joint investigation, and we're now looking into possible criminal activities of government employees in this online gambling investigation being done by the feds.
Additionally, the chief has temporarily assigned a GPD officer to the AG's office to assist with the ongoing investigations. As of news time, the oversight hearing is still underway at the Guam Congress building. You can view the live streaming on the legislature's YouTube page. Guam Department of Labor Director David De La Sola hopes the public has got the message that he will not tolerate fraud. As reported, one of his former employees is pleading guilty to getting unemployment benefits he wasn't eligible for.
Once working full-time, now facing jail time.
It's unfortunate that this had to happen.
GDOL Director David De La Sola says when his staff caught wind of what Jerome Michael Cruz was up to, he forwarded all the information to the feds.
The one thing about our system is every keystroke, wherever you go, whatever you do in that system is recorded.
In total, Cruz, who was a full-time temporary worker for GDOL, bilked the federal program over $13,000 in PUA and FPUC benefits. And according to court documents, he tried to obtain an additional $80,000.
I just want to thank the FBI. They were on top of this. They helped us. We gave them what we had and they took it running. And they came through with a very quick time.
Unfortunately, according to De La Sola, a couple of other DOL employees were terminated in the fallout from the fraud. As reported, Cruz was able to use login credentials of another GDOL employee to change the method of payment of a claimant from a paper check to direct deposit to an account controlled by him.
They worked 7 days a week, at the beginning, long hours, and, they thought that they were helping him help other people.
Instead, he was helping himself. Cruz is scheduled to appear in the district court on Thursday, where he has agreed to plead guilty to charges of federal program theft and accessing protected computer in furtherance of fraud.
This isn't the first or the last of fraud or theft that we brought forward.
De La Sola confirming he's forwarded dozens of other cases to federal law enforcement authorities.
If you're going to try to do it, know that there are federal repercussions.
The maximum penalty for federal program theft is up to 10 years in prison and a fine of up to $250,000. The maximum penalty for accessing a protected computer is up to 5 years in prison and also a fine of up to $250,000.
To date, GDOL has paid out almost $500 million in PUA and FPUC claims to Guam's unemployed. The Department of Administration has extended the deadline for residents to apply for the Emergency Rental Assistance or ERA program. The initial deadline was this Friday, but it has now been extended to March 26th. As of this morning, DOA received 1,500 applications. Of that number, 270 have been reviewed, 150 have pre-qualified, and about 50 were disqualified. DOA Deputy Director Bernie Gines reminds those who are applying to make sure they fill out the application properly. Additionally, they are still on target to release payments by the first week of April.
We are looking into, compiling that list, we're looking into generating those letters, the notifications to these individuals via whatever contact information that they place in their application via email or through mail. And then also getting them those documents that entails like the landlord's verification, some other information that we're going to be required so that we can prepare the payments out to them. Keep in mind that payments will be made directly to the landlords. If it's utilities, we are working with the utilities agency. We already have a really good connection and established a good partnership with them that will provide them the names of those who are in arrears and then they'll reconcile against their listing.
The ERA grant provides assistance to eligible tenants impacted by COVID. It provides rent, rental arrears, utilities, and utility arrears assistance for up to 15 months. Applications can be downloaded at era.guam.gov. You can also pick up applications at your village mayor's office. As for landlord applications, DOA is looking to roll that out on March 29th. Effective tomorrow, individuals 40 years and older will be able to receive the COVID-19 vaccine. This comes out of Monday's Vaccine and Antiviral Prioritization Policy Committee meeting, who approved the eligibility expansion. Operations continue at the UOG Calvo Fieldhouse from 10 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Eligible residents can book their appointments online at tinyurl.com/vaccinateguam. In addition, the community's fight against COVID continued today in Barrigada at the Old Carnival Grounds. It's the second free community testing site this week held by Public Health. The next mass testing will be on Friday from 9 a.m. to noon in Barrigada at the Old Carnival Grounds. Don't plan on visiting the Philippines anytime soon. An inbound travel ban will soon go into effect. The country is experiencing a new surge in cases that's pushed the active total to its highest level of the year. KUAM's Nestor Lecanto reports from Manila.
The Philippines will impose a temporary ban on the entry of all travelers, Filipinos and foreigners, effective midnight Saturday, March 20th through April the 19th. There are exceptions, though, for example, for returning overseas Filipino workers. The country's National Task Force on COVID announced that the latest guidelines are based on the increasing number of COVID-19 cases in the country. Philippine health officials reported that on Tuesday there were 4,400 new cases, bringing the country's total to more than 631,000. But what's most concerning to health officials is the fact that there are 58,000 active cases, the most of any single period so far this year. And that's a concern because Philippine health officials don't want hospital capacity overwhelmed by COVID cases at the expense of other critical patient needs. The government also announced a return to modified general community quarantine effective Tuesday, which includes a nationwide curfew from 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. All commercial establishments are also to be closed during those hours, and individuals younger than 15 years of age and older than 65 are not allowed in public places for their safety. Reporting from Manila for Guam's News Network, I'm Nestor Lecanto.
Thank you, Nestor. Due to reports of community spread in the CNMI, the Joint Information Center reports that all incoming travelers originating from the CNMI flying into Guam are now subject to quarantine. Travelers originating from the CNMI were previously allowed to quarantine at a rental lodging or personal residence immediately upon arrival in Guam. Stick around for more news here on Primetime. You're watching KUAM.
Whether you use your truck for work or play, you can count on Ram trucks. Built to deliver today and built to deliver for many years to come. Here at Cars Plus, it is Ram Truck Month, where you can get the best deal on a new Ram 1500 starting at a new low price of $31,995. You can call us at 477-7807 or visit our website at carsplusguam.com and schedule your test drive today.
While we've all been through a lot over the years,
typhoons, earthquakes, and now COVID-19,
we've been able to get through these together.
For more than 80 years, Calvo's Insurance has been protecting your homes, your businesses,
and the health of your family.
We are here today and we'll be here tomorrow.
There are better days ahead. Tomorrow's a new day filled with hope and choices.
The possibilities of what we can achieve together are limitless.
Let's continue to work together to ensure a brighter tomorrow for all of us.
It makes myself and it makes my team members very proud to work for an organization that has been on island for many years with its focus on reliability, dependability, and commitment to the communities that they operate in.
Matson's a great corporate citizen to the community.
We all benefit from any sort of environmental commitment we make. One of the ways that we do that is with our Adahi Utano program. There's action behind it, and so action breeds commitment.
With the Kaimana Hila coming to Guam, this brings a new age and modernization to the island.
It's exciting for me because it's a brand new ship and we can carry more freight into the islands. It just shows growth for Guam and Micronesia.
Matson would be nothing without its customers. and we hope to continue to serve you for decades to come.
KUAM News, winner of the 2020 Regional Edward R. Murrow Award for Excellence in Social Media.
Welcome back. The Guam Department of Education is now accepting registrations for next school year and plans to host a series of virtual forums next week to gather input from parents. With this week's progress report is Tyler Matsanani.
I think, through this past year, there really has been a lot of uncertainty and anxiety, but I'd like to think that at this point, we can see that light at the end of the tunnel now.
And with things looking brighter, the Guam Education Board this week gave approval for GDOE Superintendent John Fernandez to move forward with plans to get more students back on campus for next school year. In preparation, starting the fourth quarter, GDOE will phase out hard copy as a model of learning. By then, concerns about access to internet will be resolved and students can start transitioning to either of the two remaining models of learning.
Obviously, if they want to go face-to-face, they can do it fourth quarter or register just to start next school year. If they want to move online, we're happy that to report that our laptops that we had ordered have arrived on Guam, so we're able to provide sufficient numbers of laptops. And then the internet access, again, we're in this final stage.
Key to all of this is parental involvement and ensuring that they are aware of GDOE's plans. Starting next week, GDOE will be hosting a series of virtual forums.
This will just be an opportunity to let the parents know what the decisions are, answer any questions that they might have, and then if there are concerns or suggestions, to be able to take those into account.
The parent forums are organized by school districts and will begin at 6 p.m. Additional info can be found on GDOE's Facebook page. For now, though, parents are encouraged to start registering their children for the upcoming school year by contacting their child's school. Reporting for Guam's News Network, I'm Tyler Matsanani.
Everything's going according to plan so far for the construction of the Hagåtña Marina seawall and the new Fisherman's CoOp, according to GDOL CEO Melanie Mengiola.
The Fisherman's CoOp in Hagåtña is making some good progress. So Joaquin Flores is the chair of the building committee. He provided GDOL with kind of a work plan and a schedule of payments that need to be made as far as the seawall is constructed, so that we can draw down the money to pay for the contractor to take care of the construction work.
According to Mengiola, after entering into a memorandum of understanding, the money for the project will flow from the Port Authority through GDOL to pay the contractor. After that, Mengiola says,
that is all dependent on the Fisherman's CoOp and the contractor. So as you know, whenever you're undertaking a construction project, you have to do stuff like permitting and making sure things are ready. And of course, anything near the ocean is very sensitive. And so that is what the Fisherman's CoOp and the contractor are working towards at the moment.
So far, the Fisherman's CoOp has spent about $1 million for the design and pre-construction planning, with another $1 million set aside for the construction of the seawall, leaving about $2 million to fund the construction of the actual facility. The Rules Committee has set the agenda for legislative session scheduled for Friday. It includes a pair of the bills introduced at the request of the governor. One would appropriate E911 funds from prior fiscal years to current system operations. Another would refund certain bonds secured by business privilege taxes in order to save several $1 million in upfront debt service costs. Other bills to be discussed Friday include Senator Sabina Perez's measure to require agencies to submit a procurement training compliance report to the OPA, and Senator Jose Pito Terlahi's bill to authorize the police department to use FY 2019 lapsed funds for operational expenses. Also expected to be added are a measure by Senator Tony Ada to exempt certain medical and telemedicine services from the BPT, and another by Senator Telo Taitigui to officially change the name of Inarajan to its Chamorro pronunciation of Inalahan. District Court Chief Judge Francis Tidinko Gatewood ordered Brandon Kenyatta immediately be remanded to the United States Marshals. Less than 3 weeks ago, the court sentenced Kenyatta to serve 57 months in prison for conspiring with others to pick up mailed-in packages containing over 220 grams of meth to sell. He was to self-surrender once ordered a designation facility. However, while on release pending the order, the defendant violated his conditions. He admitted to marijuana use. Chief Judge expressed disappointment in court this morning, stating, quote, "I don't like that you are just blowing off the court orders," unquote. Probation noted this was the defendant's third time admitting to using marijuana since his pretrial supervision began last year. There are no conflicts with the 4th Defense Counsel William Poole assigned to Katner Harry's homicide case. Harry is accused for the January 2020 rape and killing of Luciana Pauly. He previously reasserted his rights to a speedy trial, although this morning Attorney Poole moved to waive the rights again in order for the defense to review the over 330 pages of discovery. Additionally, the government brought to the court and defense's attention that there are 25 items pending DNA analysis with the FBI that the prosecution also plans to bring forward. Harry's trial was set for December 15th. Sexual predator Atriko Hewanin will spend the next 17 years in jail for sexually assaulting 3 victims over an 8-month time period. In December of last year, a jury found Hewanin guilty of third-degree criminal sexual conduct and terrorizing for abusing a 16-year-old. He then pled guilty to 2 other separate cases of first-degree CSE for sexually assaulting a 4-year-old and fourth-degree CSE for sexually assaulting an adult. According to a release from the Office of the Attorney General, the court sentenced him to a 17-year imprisonment term for all 3 cases. The stipulated sentencing required the defendant to waive his rights to appeal the verdict. Coming up, Dave Delgado has a look at local sports. Keep it here. You're watching KUAM.
Your community calendar is brought to you by Taco Bell. Whether it's your first meal or your 4th meal, we've got you covered. Taco Bell, live Mas.
Try double filet sandwich for double the flavor. Just in time for Lent for a limited time. Served all day.
We get it. Living to the fullest is tough during COVID-19. You don't need to do it alone, and everyone needs a hand right now. We are here. Feeling overwhelmed? Call 647-8833 and let's talk. Mangahihem is a project of Guam Behavior